Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to Mr. Sadad's class. Okay, we are now going to continue our discussion. Last discussion we talked about noun clause, and now we are going to talk about adjective clause. Okay. Adjective. When we talk about adjective, adjective is a word or group of words that defines a noun, right? Now, how about adjective clause? Okay, let's see. What is adjective clause? Okay, adjective clause is a clause. It has subject and also verb, but it cannot stand on its own because it is dependent. It requires other clause, which is the independent one, so that it can stick to it, to this independent clause, and becomes and then qualifies to be called as a sentence, which is carrying complete meaning. Okay. Now, and adjective clause, yeah, defines or modifies a noun or pronoun. It tells which one or what kinds. Okay. Now I'm going to give you this example. Okay. For example, they are strong opponents. Now, if we want to know which opponents, because there could be this group, those group, these ones as the opponents. So which one is the strong opponent? Now, so we can add adjective clause to define this strong opponent. And one thing that you have to note is adjective clause always sticks to the nouns or pronouns that it modifies. So it cannot stray away from the noun that it is modifying. Okay? Like for example this one. They are strong opponents that we need to defeat. Now, the one that I printed in red here is the adjective clause. It defines, it modifies this noun. Yeah? Opponents. Okay? So which opponent? The one that we need to defeat. So the speaker and also the audience of this speaker, if it is a spoken word, they have common background knowledge about who is the common enemy. Okay. All right. Now, if we actually break down this sentence, we have two independent clauses. Yeah, the first clause is they are strong opponents, and the second one, we need to defeat them. Are they related? Yes, they have relation. Opponents and thems are actually the same entities. So the groups that we want to defeat, we consider them as the strong opponents, yeah, that we need to take care. So we combine them, these opponents, and them into they are strong opponents that we need to defeat. That change them. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the next example. Daniel, who was late again today, sits next to me. So if we break these two sentences, actually we have fine, good sentence, yeah, with complete meaning, which is Daniel sits next to me. Look at that, Daniel. He sits next to me again today. Okay, there is nothing wrong with the sentence, but sometimes we want to add extra information to it. Yeah, we want to clarify something. In this case, we want to make sure that this Daniel, okay, he's a late comer, yeah, always comes late when to the meeting, okay, including to this lecture. So Daniel, who was late again today, yeah, as usual, sits next to me. This is the adjective clause that clarifies, that modifies this noun. Yeah, Daniel, this pronoun. Okay, now maybe you take note there are differences between these two. There's something like very striking difference between these two sentences. The which is the second ones, we put this adjective clause in between the commas. Yeah, but there is no comma in here. Okay, actually, in adjective clause, there are two types. The first type is defining adjective clause. The second one is non-defining adjective clause. What is defining adjective clause? Defining adjective clause is the adjective clause that gives essential information to the clause, yeah, to the sentence. Okay. For example, they are strong opponents that we need to defeat. So, this sentence give us sense, give us information that there are more than one groups of opponents, and the person who said this sentence and also his audience have like common background knowledge about the common enemy, which is the one that they are striving to defeat. Okay. Now, so like they are trying to say, no, there's not that opponent, not that opponent. We know that they are our opponents, but they are weak. They are not strong. But this one, the one that we need to defeat, is very strong. Okay, so this is very essential. We do not put comma in here. Now, how about this one? Well, this is non-defining adjective clause. Non-defining because it is okay without this clause actually. Nothing wrong. We would have not any misconception about which Daniel, because there is only one Daniel here. No any other Daniel. No second Daniel, no third Daniel. It's only one. So there will be no misconception without telling the one who is always coming late to meeting. No, because everybody knows that Daniel, okay, Daniel always comes late, and nobody else, no any other Daniel. It's only one. Now, non-defining sentence in written form would be put in between comma. But when it is in spoken context, of course, you don't have any comma. But you might notice like microsecond pause, like something like Daniel, who was late again today, sits next to me. Okay. Now, what is adjective clause? Still, yeah. Adjective clause generally begins with a relative pronoun. Okay, these are relative pronouns. They are which, whom, whose. Yeah, always begins with these relative pronouns. And adjective clause also connects the clause to the noun or pronouns it modifies. Of course, like we discussed it before, it sits right next to the noun or pronoun that it modifies. It cannot stay further away from this. Yeah. It shows the relationship between the clause and the antecedent. Okay. Now, I want to discuss about relative pronoun cannot stay away from the noun or pronoun that it modifies. Take this for example. They are strong opponents. Okay, that we need to defeat modifies the opponent. Okay, this one is not that clear. Let's take the other one. This one for example. Hang on. Before that, let's discuss it before. They are strong opponents that we need to defeat. Okay. Now the antecedent is opponents. Okay. And that connects the clause we need to defeat them with the antecedent. We need to defeat them and opponent, which is the antecedent. They are the same entities. We don't talk about different entities. We are talking about the same group of people who are strong, and we need to defeat them. Okay. Let's see the next example. Apples, which here again, this is what we call in our discussion before as non-defining clause, adjective clause. Apples, which generally bloom early to late May, are a good source of vitamin C. Apples here is the antecedent. Okay, which generally bloom early to late May is actually, if we break down this sentence into two the independent clauses, we would have apples are a good source of vitamin C, and apples generally bloom early to late May. Now we are talking the same species, which is apple. Okay. We don't talk about apple A or apple B. We talk about apple as species, and they are a good source of vitamin C. And also, when they bloom, uniquely, they bloom like about in May. Yeah. Okay. So apples here is the antecedent, and apples generally bloom a little late. We change that into which. Okay, so now they are linked together. Okay, all right. Next, let's see the next example. Sarah, who is the current captain, again this is a non-defining clause, sits next to me. Sarah is the antecedent who who is replacing Sarah. So the dependent clause means, this one means Sarah is the current captain. Who is replacing Sarah in the second clause? Because they are related to each other. We are not talking about two Sarahs. There is no other Sarah. It's only one Sarah that we are talking about here. Okay? Next. Now, adjective clause, the grammatical function of adjective clause in sentences. All right. Okay, now let's take this as an example. They are strong opponents that we need to defeat. Now that here actually is the direct object of the verb defeat. Why is it so? Because when we break down this sentence into two independent clauses, we would have they. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. It should be they too. They are strong opponents, and we need to defeat them. So that here, as a replacement of them in the second clause, is the direct object of the verb defeats. Apples, which generally bloom early to late May, are good source. Now, in this case, adjective clause acts as the subject of the dependent clause. Okay. Let's prove it. This is a subject. So let's break it down into two clauses. Apples are a good source of vitamin C, and we have the second one. Apples generally bloom early to late May. Okay. All right. Next, Sarah, who is the current captain, sits next to me. Who is the subject of the dependent clause? Now, sometimes we are a bit confused between using who or who. Now, let's clarify it. Okay? Now, consider how the pronoun is used in the dependent clause. Yeah, in the adjective clause. Okay, not in the independent one. Take this as an example. These are the players who are competing. So now let's consider this part, this bit, which is the dependent clause one. Now let's break it down into two parts. These are the players, and um, they are competing. Okay. Now, so they are competing. They is replaced by who is the subject. When it is a subject in the dependent clause, you use who, not whom. Okay. All right. Now let's see the next example. Those are the students for whom I bought the ticket. Now let's break it down into two clauses. Those are the students, and I bought the ticket. I bought the ticket for them. Okay, I bought the ticket for them or for the students. Okay. Now, I bought the ticket. The subject is I, so them is not the subject. So because it is not the subject in the dependent clause, yeah, we use who. Okay. Now sometimes the adjective clause marker, we do not write them sometimes, especially when it is when it is informal situation. Let's say, for example, and also it is understood between the speaker and also the audience. Now let's take this as an example. Have you seen the sports we are looking for? Well, actually, if we need to write it completely, there is that in between here. As in, have you seen the sports that we are looking for? But we can drop it, and no problem with that. And the second one, the school captain, I taught in the 5th grade, becomes the wealthiest person in this country. Now there is no adjective clause marker here because we drop it. But if we need to write it down, we will have something like that. The school captain whom I taught in the 5th grade becomes the wealthiest person in the country. We discussed about why this is whom, not who. If you need that explanation again, you can pause this video and then return to some previous points of discussion. Okay. Now, informal versus formal settings. Okay, how adjective clause is used in informal and also formal setting. Are there any differences? Let's see. Now, the preposition dangle, or sometimes like left at the end of the sentence, at the end of the clause. Yeah. Not so much in informal setting though. Yeah. They are different. The preposition part of the dependent clause. Okay, take this as the example. This movie was the sequel we had been waiting for. This is in informal situation, we use this sentence. Okay? This is very easy. This is very convenient to say that. This movie was the sequel we had been waiting for. Okay? Now, okay, we dropped the